Welcome, everybody, to the Sandy Bob Show. My name is Bob, and
I'm Sandy.
And today we are honored with a very special guest. His name is Duane Hepner, and he is a person who has traveled throughout the worlds of cause and effect creation. He's traveled to all the heavens. He's met with the gods of this world. He has a very special relationship with the All Is and the Real Guides who are beyond creation. He is a great ambassador for peace. He has been instrumental in ending a 10,000-year war between the Orions and the Syrians. He is currently working with the guides on Earth, trying to educate people of what's happening on this planet, the fact that we're in dire straits due to a lot of things that the government leaders are doing on this planet that are destroying the environment. And we have a lot of things to talk about today. And so, Duane, would you like to add any more about yourself before we begin?
Well, that's quite a list, Bob, yes. And so, that's plenty. That's plenty, yes. Also known as, a.k.a. Duane Duane the Great Writer, yes. Yes, I'm here in Huntington Beach, windy Huntington Beach on New Year's Day, and you kids are freezing in Wisconsin, is that right?
Yeah, it's pretty cold up here. And, that was the next thing I was going to get into was for those of the listeners who do not know Duane, he has published a lot of writings under the pen name of Duane the Great Writer. He's done some writings with websites. The wonderful Worldwide Educators we're educating people about what's going on here. He has a series of books that we call the New Books, which you spell new, N-U, and it's a series of 9 books so far called The Adventures with Rebisar, who was one of the Adventure series with Rebisar, where he talks about his experiences dealing in the lower worlds and sometimes going up beyond creation, and just another series of YouTube series where they're called Wake Up Now by Duane Hepner, and I recommend everybody listen to every one of those because they give a lot of insight into what's going on with every individual on this planet. And so thank you, Duane, for being here with us. It's just a real honor. And what I'd like to start out with is if you could give the listeners a background view of where we came from, where we are now, and what our choices for the future might be.
Boy, that's a lot. Okay, so how many weeks and days do we have on the show that is available, Bob?
Well, this would just be a summary, I think. I know it's a lot.
Oh, okay. Just a synopsis, okay, as they say in the writing circles. Well, are you kids okay there? Are you guys herding the chickens in, or what are you doing? I can hear all that noise in the background.
Everybody needs to mute their phones.
That would be interesting. How many phones do you kids have there in the house? Yes. Okay, so the question is that overall, we're all in the same life. It's very simple, and we're all going through the experience of creation. And so, within creation at this time, we have past, present, and future, and these are really ideas that we've come to know, and relationships accordingly. And this is why we're in creation, is to create these references for ourselves, so eventually we can recognize the true reality life is. And so the true reality is not creation itself, but it's a part of creation. And so this is a very, very important part. But as we come through creation, of course, we consider creation to be the only reality there is. But it's really a reflection. It's a simulator. And it's very necessary. Everything here that we're experiencing is okay. Nothing is negated. It's made by choices. But now is what I've brought forward is the new nowness of the all is. It's just right out there because of what's going on in the world. And so this becomes the bigger journey to recognize this. And mentioning the future, well, that's what people decide. And for the most part, most people are chasing something into the future, their wants, their desires, likes, dislikes, whatever it is. And this creates more lifetimes because the embodiments here are very limited. So my focus is showing people how to recognize the new nowness, which is the isness of life, which is everything more so than creation, which I call the real universes. And so, but each individual decides this. They decide their journey through life. And this is what I've decided from what I've come to know. I came into this life just like Paul did, Paul Twitchell, when he first started, and now that's become rather funny and strange because of the takeover that took place, but that's okay. So the real guides are focused on what I'm deciding and presenting because it makes sense with the whole of life. So this is our adventure now. It takes a bit to figure it out and eventually recognize the isness life is, the all is. But it's worth it. It's worth the challenge because you eventually, within this lifetime, if you're persistent and learn how to recognize this reality and stand real with it, well, you can free yourself from all the karma and reincarnation. You don't need this anymore. So you just kind of cast it aside and you become all aware of everything life is, and it becomes endless. So that awareness goes on. You continually become more aware endlessly. It's so cool, and you're not restricted by anything in creation again. So that's a little bit of an idea what we're doing here.
I'd like you to say something about the yugas, how they fit into the scheme of things, how people go through like the golden age and wind up in this age, and if you could talk about there being any sense of urgency if we're toward the end of all these ages.
Well, the ages were actually, just like you as a child coming into this life. Let's say you so many years you were at your golden age, and then as time went on and you gained experiences and you were battered around a little bit, or you went through this or that. Everybody goes through something different, and it's also a combination of what you've accumulated and carry from the past lifetimes, etc. So the cycles like that, like Paul mentioned, I don't really get into those because they're really created just like this life. You create your life, and how you end up in the life, that's always been through your choices, plus the effects of the environment you're in. So the different yugas, that is, Paul laid those out in a literal sense. But realistically, you see what you're going through every day, and how things end up accordingly is what people decide. So you might say that we as the wonderful worldwide educators are intervening here as to what is decided overall in the consciousness that people have created, and most people are not conscious of the unconscious part that's affecting everything in this world, that's putting a stranglehold on it and the direction it's taking. So we're stepping up with our free will, not to change that's not the idea, but to provide a new position to focus on that, that that allows the individual to become more aware of the true reality life is, instead of just being the effects of creation. So these so-called yugas in that have been specified in the past, I kind of bypass all this because I look at the nowness, and you and anybody can make a new decision, a better choice right now, but that's up to you. But for the most part, most people go along with what has always been said and done and thought and determined and tradition and all these things, and so they keep themselves you might say, entrapped, and the effect of what they've decided before that is restricting. So, as you figure this out, all of a sudden you start to see, why do I need these restrictions? And it's all about your awareness and how your real awareness is deciding with the 5 bodies that it utilizes. So as the real guidance comes in, you start to wake up a little bit. But again, you really have to focus and really take a look at something a little bit different than what everybody else is doing, because everything is, the trend of things is to agree with what's established here, and it only gets worse, simply because people keep deciding it and thinking that it's going to get better, but it keeps getting worse, and that's choice. So everybody has the right to have this place worse and worse, and this is what's happening. So the yugas, Paul laid those out in a particular way, really just to objectively show people what they keep deciding through the various lifetimes until this point. And so all of a sudden, it's like a person in this life where they're born a cute little baby, and all of a sudden, they're at 80, 90 years old, and they've done all kinds of things with their life. Whatever it is, it's fine, good, bad, or indifferent, but they end up a particular, and most people end up unaware why they're here, see? And so we're trying to show people, trying to get their attention for them overall, because this is how life is. Like the sun shining, it expresses itself that way, to, show them that there's something else more than everything that has been decided here in creation. Again, creation has its part, but it's a simulator, it's not the reality, and so it's recognizing that. And once you start to do that, then you have a comparison to decide, a better position, again, without restrictions. So, yeah, the yugas that have been decided and created, it's just like history. Those are choices. You're seeing people making choices, and so the consciousness and the agreements and how things go in a particular direction, just like anything in this world, has been decided, and then it's kind of categorized. We're in the age where everything is data and categorized, so you have these ideas in the literal sense, but there's a much bigger view that's a lot better.
There's a saying that we come here to get lifetimes of experience, and we go through many, many lifetimes. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Well, again, yes, we do. And until we, each lifetime, something is presented to us. But because of how life is, the true reality life is invisible to the 5 bodies and the senses. And so this is where, it takes a lot of experience, hard knocks and whatever, to start to all of a sudden see something that the mind and senses, as the individual, as their real awareness works through these 5 bodies, cannot see. And it's not about belief, it's not about faith, it's not about any of these things. These are ideas, worship, prayer, and gods and saviors and all these things. These are ideas in creation. And so we go through a lot of creation, and we have fun in creation, and we go through the hard times mainly. It's a lot of tribulation, a lot of hard work and struggle, because really what we're here for, what we've come into this reality for, is to recognize what is real from all that isn't real according to the true reality life is. It's very interesting how it is. But this is just how life is. Life is not in the literal sense. So all these lifetimes, and it just depends upon when the individual gets that spark to recognize this, and then also recognize their intent and place it accordingly, you might say. Have the intent to continually recognize this true reality and become more aware. Now that's a little bit of a toughie, because for the most part, a person's intent is with the 5 bodies and the personal self. Well, the personal self's not going to disappear, but then again it does each lifetime because of the lifespan of each embodiment. And people are living longer even though the world's more poisoned and polluted because they have the intent to do so. So that's one idea, but there's more than just the body. So these lifetimes are just little episodes that we go through, and we make the choice. Life is always presenting itself to us. In other words, life is the true reality life is not creation. It is to be seen for what it is, but it's not with the senses of the 5 bodies, which is the physical, astral, causal, mental, and etheric. These are the different faculties we have. And we have this experience here, but it's seeing and it's recognizing the real awareness of the individual and seeing life from that position, and then using creation as the comparison, as a reference to better understand this true reality. And eventually we no longer need creation. It becomes limited, and when we are free beings of real light, and we're in pure bodies, you might say, we'll just use that term, but we are beings of light beyond anything, etc. So, these lifetimes, again, every moment you're making the choice. You determine whatever, and all it takes is a thought or an idea that you chase, and it takes you into more lifetimes. Most people, because of how they're deciding and looking into the future and chasing ideas, they're setting up their future lifetimes while they're here. Just like you're planning to build a house, and so you get the plans done, and eventually you go to build a house, and it's going to take a year or two, so you keep putting it into the future. And so it's not that you are not to do these things, that's not the idea, but it's how you see how this is compared to creation. But for the most part, creation is the only reality for most people, and so until they learn to recognize this true reality, they're going to continually go into embodiments because they don't know anything else. So that is familiar to them. But there is something else a lot better. But you got to take the risk to see it and to do it. So again, these lifetimes are very necessary because there's a bigger picture that's a lot better without any restrictions. But until then, it's consciously making the choice to step up and recognize this reality from all those lifetimes, and that can be at any moment.